Hey friends, Dave here with Transfer Express, and today we're talking 5 easy artwork and setup tips that you could employ to make your direct-to-film heat transfers pop and be an absolutely stellar print that your customers will absolutely love. Now, direct-to-film transfers have undeniably changed the game for many apparel decorators, unlocking low quantities and full-color apparel prints in an incredibly accessible and inexpensive decoration method. All you need is a heat press. But in conversations with apparel decorators and print shops over the past several years, there's a love it or hate it perspective that people have with DTF transfers. And a few of the hate it's are likely remedied by some of the simple information that we're going to cover here today. So let's jump right into it. Now, first things first, right off the bat, for number 1 on our list of tips today, a quality DTF transfer is paramount for a premium print. You're never going to get a high quality t-shirt print using cheap DTF transfers or DTF equipment. Now, not all DTF is created equal. You need to remember that. And the easiest way to ruin a great design or t-shirt is utilizing economical or maybe craft grade direct-to-film prints. Sure, you may save a few pennies here and there, but you'll have things like out of registration white inks that are kind of unsightly, or stippling, banding, or grain in your prints. And nothing hurts you and your brand more than selling custom t-shirts that look like they were printed with an at-home desktop printer that was, well, running out of ink. Saturated and rich colors are nearly impossible to achieve with cheap DTF. And that's due to low pigmented inks or incompatible supplies, kind of like this unsightly grain in the print that you see here. That is actually the white ink backing showing through the color on top, making everything much more muted and less vibrant of a color. Inexpensive inks and supplies do require more ink too, leaving behind a heavy, thick, almost paper-like print on the t-shirt. When done correctly, direct-to-film should move with the fabric of the t-shirt and flex, stretch, and rebound with the wearer and hold up to the demands of, say, synthetic performance wear or even athletic uniforms. For tip number 2 today, one of my favorite design tips for anyone creating t-shirt artwork is leaving negative space or open areas that show through to the garment color. Not only can using the color of the t-shirt as a color in your design help it look more like a professionally designed screen print with that added contrast, but it also helps with comfort when worn and hand feel of the print, regardless if it's a DTF transfer, heat transfer vinyl, or a traditional screen print. Any ink or substrate covering the fibers of a t-shirt stops it from breathing, whether it's a heat transfer or directly printed to the tee. Now, this is definitely more prevalent in larger designs like full fronts or full backs with any print method other than sublimation, as sublimation is really just dyeing the fibers of the t-shirt, not putting ink over top of them. Now, small designs with full coverage of ink, even with heat transfer vinyl or direct-to-film prints, are barely noticeable on the garment and feel nice, light, flexible, and smooth. So just ensure if you're going large to incorporate some of that show-through. Seriously though, if there is black text in your design and you're printing on a black t-shirt, knock it out to the shirt color. This is really easy to do on almost any artwork in EasyView Online Designer at Transfer Express or stalls too. Just select the garment color in the lower left of your art canvas panel, and with vector artwork or EasyPrints artwork, you just grab the color swatch here in the edit menu and set it to no ink or show through, and boom, it's done. Designing in other graphic software, be sure to have the area drop out and save it in a format that supports transparency, and when you upload it, it's gonna be gone. Next up, for number 3, we're talking about print size and resolution. So, more importantly, saving at the correct print size at a high resolution. That is 300 dpi or dots per inch. Now, 300 dpi is preferred for the printing standard, whether you're doing business cards, posters, or t-shirts. And that's going to put each dot or pixel down to a tiny, tiny size that you're not going to be able to see with your eye. This makes detail in your image crisp and natural looking. Now, saving your file at the size it's going to be printed at locks the DPI in. So say if we saved a file at 5 inches wide at 300 DPI, but we need it 10 inches wide, when we double the size, it's going to go down to 150 DPI or half the resolution. So if we're going to print at 10 inches wide, set your size to 10 inches wide and your DPI at 300. Of course, at Transfer Express installs, we do allow artwork down to 150 DPI, which for the most part still looks pretty good when printed on a t-shirt, as long as you're not real up close to it, right? But the results are always going to be nice, crisp, high definition at 300 DPI. You may notice some blurriness or pixelization in your prints if you are in that lower range, and anything below 150 DPI, your print quality will suffer and look less than ideal. With vector files though, you don't have to worry about resolution at all. Vector files are scalable to any size. Now, if you have photos, raster, or bitmap artwork at a low resolution, don't fret. There's plenty of free upscalers and image resizers available online that could clean up designs and get them looking nice and sharp. You'll want to do that before uploading. Of course, any graphic design program like Photoshop could help boost the resolution too. Now, kind of along the same lines, our tip number 4 today is ensuring your artwork has hard edges. With the process of direct-to-film transfers, every piece of ink needs to have a 100% solid white opaque layer printed behind it. That's what makes your colors nice and vibrant, regardless of if you're printing on light or dark colors of apparel. And it's required for the heat-sensitive adhesive powder to stick to. So there's no way to have fades from ink coverage to the bare garment. Well, there kind of is, but we're going to cover that in a minute. If you are using design software, ensure your artwork has a sharp edge, and if you're saving your artwork out, ensure anti-aliasing is turned off. Usually you'll see it as just a little check mark. Anti-aliasing essentially is built for screens and adds a line of in-between colored pixels to smooth the appearance of fine details, kind of like text. Now, the problem here for printing is that line of pixels that it renders, say from some black text, is actually a transparent gray on the edge. Now, this will cause some issues printing or possibly a halo around your art. So that pixel that it made in the middle is a 50% fill of black and looks gray, and it's going to print at a 50%, so it's going to be somewhat transparent. The white behind it, though, is going to print at 100% fully opaque, so it's going to appear as a gray on the edge of that black text, and it might look slightly jagged as well. So it's definitely something to avoid. Now, the last tip here today is to adhere to the set print minimums. They're there not only to ensure your artwork prints great, but also washes and wears great too, and you won't lose any detail. The minimum line weight here for Ultra Color Max direct-to-film transfers is 0.021 inches, or about 1.5 points in line weight if you're using Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop. Now, this is the minimum area needed to print enough white ink for the adhesive powder to hold onto. Without it, you could risk the design element wearing or washing off the fabric of the garment after applied. This is very handy to keep in mind as the absolute minimum for a halftone dot, which you could use as an alternate to, say, those pieces of artwork that do need to fade to the bare garment like we talked about earlier. The halftone dots themselves are a hard defined edge and look great and look like they're fading when printed. When ordering at Transfer Express, we will run your design through an automated proofing step before adding to your cart. Now, this is going to highlight any areas that may fall under the print minimums or may have transparency for, say, those soft edges, allowing you to see any problem areas before you order your custom DTF transfers. There's also a handy tool right here in the left side of the canvas in the EasyView Online Designer that you could use at any time when you're designing, that you could hold up to elements and compare the print minimum sizing. So, do you think we missed anything today when talking about DTF prints, or do you have any artwork tips or setup tips of your own? Let us know down in the comments section below. We love to keep the conversation going. And as always, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the Transfer Express YouTube page right here to stay up to date on all of the helpful t-shirt printing tips, tricks, inspiration, and education that we're dropping every single week. But until next time, I'm Dave. Happy pressing.